Hello, my friends. I am Roxanne, and I'm here along with Brenda, and we are from Pemberley Realty Group at Compass, and we've been wanting to do this for a long time, and now that we have all this time, we actually got around to actually do some educational videos. So we want to start with going over the residential purchase agreement, which is the biggest tool in our toolbox. So if you think of being realtors and think of us as being contractors or handymen, what do they have? They have a belt that when they go to work every day they wear, and then they have a toolbox, and they have a bunch of tools in there that they use every day. Well, with us, it's pretty much the same way. We have a toolbox, and in our toolbox we have a bunch of tools that we work with every day. And one of the most important tools that we work with is a contract, real estate contract. So there are so many different forms that we deal with, and these forms, at least in California, when I'm talking about real estate, I'm only talking about doing real estate in California, and primarily we're in San Diego. So because real estate is for the most part very local. If we're talking about real estate, we're talking about real estate in San Diego and how we do business locally in San Diego. I know that from city to city, things could change. From county to county, things could change. So what we are talking about is primarily about what is the standard of doing business here in San Diego. And so we're going to go over to Zip Forms, which is a program that we use that has all of our forms, and then we're going to go into RPA, which is a real estate purchase agreement, and it's the form that we use for writing an offer, purchase offer, in California. So this program is primarily for realtors, and it is provided to us by California Association of Realtors, and it's only for the use of the realtor that is the member of this organization. We are not allowed to share these forms with the public. So if you are wanting to purchase a house, you have to go through a realtor to get access to these forms, and we can help you write an offer on everything. I always struggle with the fact that the barrier to entry into our business is so low. Anybody can go and get a real estate license and be a realtor within pretty much within three to 4 months. But then you actually have to go through and educate yourself on how to do business. And if that's the case, then does anybody can anybody just do that? And in my opinion, being in the business for 20 years and still going strong at it, is that just like you go to a doctor and the doctor has been practicing for many, many years, and they've gone to school for many, many years in order to become qualified doctors. Or if you're going to a lawyer, and a lawyer has gone to school for many years, and they've learned to practice their craft, and they have learned the law, and they're servicing you with what they know, there is really no difference between what we do and what they do. We are also professionals. We are also just as educated. And our craft is just as complicated. And I know that the barrier of entry kind of creates that false narrative that being a realtor is not as technical as being a lawyer or as a doctor, but in my opinion, it is. There's a lot of nuances in these contracts and in a purchase of a home or a business or a commercial building, and you won't know until you actually get into it, the nitty gritty, and then you find out, oh, if I don't have a realtor, a knowledgeable realtor on my side, then things could get ugly very quickly. And you really want to also always avoid that. And the best way to avoid that is to work with a realtor that knows what they're doing. So let's go into a real estate contract. We're going to start. So this contract is a complicated contract, and we're going to have to go through it quickly because I want to keep this to no more than 15, 20 minutes. And there's a lot to be covered here. And so let's try to pace ourselves. So we always start with agency, which is this form that you're looking at. And this form basically tells, sets out what we need to do, who we represent, what are the duties of the agent towards their client, and you always have this, whether you're representing the buyer, if you're representing the seller, or if you're representing both sides. And as you can see, now we're basically going through and we're representing the buyer. So you want to make sure that you're clicking on the buyer side, and then you have the buyer sign, which basically tells the buyer, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, I'm the realtor that is representing you. And then you have the buyer sign their name, and then the agent signs their name. Now, when you're filling out this part, it's also very important to know that that on the first page where it says agent, that is always the broker, not the agent. So actually you're putting the company's name, and because if whatever company that you're working with, that is the company that is the broker, and then the agent is by the salesperson. So even if you as a salesperson are a broker, but you're acting in the capacity of an agent, then the name of the broker goes on the top line, and your name goes on the second line. Okay, so moving on, because we have a lot to cover. So moving on, then if you're always also putting in this form, which is basically explaining dual agency. You could have dual agency in different scenarios. You could be representing the buyer and seller, that would be dual agency, or you could be working with a bigger company, and if you're representing the buyer and that agent, the other agent is representing the seller, that is also dual agency, because the company is the broker is the holder of the agency. So if they're representing both agents, then that's also dual agency. Okay, moving on. We are wire fraud. Wire fraud these days is a real problem, and as we are getting more digital now with COVID-19 being in place, wire fraud is becoming an even bigger issue. So what you want to do when you're filling out this form is to make sure that the buyer understands that the best way to protect them is to actually become a little bit old-fashioned here. Pick up the phone, call the escrow officer, make sure to check on that account number where their money needs to be wired to. These days, you could also make sure that you're getting the wiring instruction from the escrow with a secure email, or a dual authentication method. But at the end of the day, if you ask me, it's better to go old-fashioned. Pick up the phone, check with the live person at the escrow company what is the account number that you're supposed to be sending the funds to. Okay, now moving on to the actual offer. So as you can see here, things that are important: date, the name of the buyer, the actual property address. It's important to make sure that you even have the parcel number in there. Close of escrow. You want to make sure that you have the amount that you're offering, and also who's representing whom. This is an important part, who's representing whom, because in a real estate transaction, most of the time, majority of the time, you have two agents: the agent that's representing the seller and the agent that's representing the buyer. And of course, we are always talking about the brokers, not only the agents, but also the brokers. So you want to make sure that you're filling everybody in properly, along with their license numbers. Now, you as an agent have your own license number, and then your broker also has their license number. So everybody's numbers have to be present here. If not, then the other side would have to counter your offer and basically put all that information in and clean things up. And then you get to the financing terms. The financing terms. Okay, so before actually we get to the financing terms, let's go over the initial deposit. This page is the most important page that you have when you're writing an offer. The reason for that is because most of the terms of the offer are on this page. So you went through and you put in the close of escrow, how many days the escrow would be, and then initial deposit. If you are representing the buyer, you want to offer no more than 1% for your offer. And if you're representing the seller, you want to assure that you have 3% as initial deposit. So how does it work? It's a tug of war, right? You're negotiating. So as a buyer's agent, an agent that's representing the buyer, you want to put in the least amount possible. So you're always writing your offer with 1% of the purchase price in here, and then you go into the other terms. Increased deposit, don't use that one because it has complications that we will address in some other video, but you don't want to use increased deposit if you can avoid it. If it's an all cash offer, great, then you just check off the box that says all cash offer. If it's an offer that has loans attached to it, then you will check off the box that is appropriate. If it's an FHA offer, if it's a VA offer, if it's a conventional offer, you check off the appropriate box. If you're having points attached to it, or you want to put your interest rate in there. If you're representing the buyer, putting all this information is important. Not that you can't change it. If you get under contract, you can always change the terms, but it's a good habit to put it on this offer initially as well. Now, the way that you calculate the amount, which is important, is let's say, I always like to do this on a calculator before. So let's say for a purchase of Brenda, I can't see, my eyes can't cooperate. How much is our offer here?
$550.
Okay, so for an offer of $550, 550,000, and then you have the initial deposit as how much?
5,000.
Okay, so 5,000 is the initial deposit. Let's say that we're writing this at 10%. So our down payment is going to be 10%. So 550 minus let's see, 550 times 10%. That's $55,000. So 550 minus 55. That leaves 495. So if you are putting in the loan amount 495, now it's going to calculate the rest of the money that you're going to bring in, so that 50,000 just gets calculated. So all you really need to do is you put your initial deposit, which is 1%, and then you will figure out how much your loan amount is. And then once you get to your loan amount, then the balance of your deposit gets calculated automatically, and then you have your total purchase price. So that's it. That's the best and most important part of the offer that we are working with today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that we were able to teach you something useful, and that you're able to fill out the most important part of your offer with the first page of the contract. If you have any questions, please let us know. We're always here and happy to help. And if you are thinking of a great team to join, we would love to have you. We're always looking for motivated agents who are hardworking and would want to be part of a team. And have a great day.